Alright, so what we are looking at here today is going to be the NBD Hummingbird Raceback V2. And I'm quite surprised that the V2 just came out so quickly because it just feels like they just released the version 1 yesterday. Since the V1 is so good, I think the V2 is going to be very good as well. So in today's video, we're going to be checking out what was actually upgraded. There's going to be a simple setup guide to guide you through the setup process to bind it to radio and the Betaflight setups. And at last, we will do some simple flight tests together. Alright, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's quickly start by running through the specs. So for hardware wise, most of the stuff are going to be same as the version 1 as for the ones that you can probably see directly. So you are going to get the same ducted frame, which is also, I assume that it's also going to be a warranty item with NBD as they generally warranties their frame only. So you get the same 0702 30,000 kV motors, which is also directly soldered to the ESC. Yep, very ultra thin magnet wires to save on weight. You get the same A30 power cable from the version 1, which is going to be the best option for 1S scooping. And these are going to be the stubs that is going to be the same, and the rest of the stubs are going to be the upgrades. So you're going to get an updated canopy, which has the default cam angle at 40 degrees. And comparing to the previous RS version, the camera is now moved even forward to the front, which allows the camera to be lower and closer to the frame. And I would assume this should give you like a more precise control. Next is going to be the camera. The V2 is now equipped with the second generation of BI FPV camera. The main difference is going to be the resolution, which is going to be upgraded from 600 TVL to 800 TVL. And with the extra resolution, you should be able to see a lot better, like as there is just going to be more details in your footages, in your goggles. Next, let's look at the AIO flight controller. You're still going to get the same 5-in-1 AIO, but the changes are going to be as follow. The processor has now changed from STM32 to the AT32, which you are required to install the new AT32 driver if you need to connect to your PC. And if you need to download the driver, links are just going to be down below at the description. Next, the gyro has been updated from BMI 270 to the newer ICM 42688, which the ICM by spec is going to be more superior than BMI, but generally most of the people is going to have a feedback that is going to be harder to tune. But since like NBD is generally pretty good at their tuning, so I assume that this is not going to be a problem for them. Next, the ESC has been upgraded from 12 amps to 18 amps, which is going to be more capable of handling higher draw rates when less burnout. When you're punching your throttle, this is going to be very essential for hardcore racers because most of the time your throttle is just going to be a lot higher. It's just going to be mostly reaching the max. The next bigger upgrade is going to be the VTX, and instead of just having 25 milliwatts from the V1, the V2 now has the option for you to adjust the VTX power from 25 milliwatts to 400 milliwatts, which should allow you to go further if you wish. Also worth mentioning, this is also a smart VTX, which will automatically detect the temperature of the board and adjust the VTX power itself to avoid overheating and potentially extend the life of your board. And when it's like reached the lower level and when the board cools down, it just adjusts it back to the higher power of the VTX output. So something very good that they are actually adding. Next, the V2 also uses expressless receiver, but this time they finally upgraded to a serial base instead of just using the same old SPI base. A thing that you should know is either type of receiver will always work with your existing expressless radio. The difference is just going to be how to bind them and how the software is going to be managed, which we will be explaining a little bit more in the next how to set up section. Additional things that you should know is that in order to save on additional weight, the built-in micro USB plug has now been removed and has been replaced to the external adapter. So you can see that the external adapter is going to be right here. This is going to be something that you wanted to keep with the quad forever, because if you lose this, you won't be able to set it up because it's not going to be a standard plug, because you can see that you're just using connection on 4 little small pins. So to install it, it's going to be pretty simple. You just have to make sure you install in the correct sequence. Just right here, there's going to be 4 holes right here. All you needed to do is press it in like this. Just make sure that install it in the correct orientation. If you install it upside down or whatsoever, there's a potential that you might accidentally fry this, so just make sure you do it correctly. All right, so next let's talk about how to set the Raceback so we can like get it in the air like real quick. So first thing first, you need to bind this to your radio. So radio wise, since like the Raceback actually is using a serial based EOLS receiver, the receiver is no longer managed by Betaflight and has to be viewed as a separate external device. So to set this thing up, your radio has to be on ExpressLS version 3.x or above. It can be 3.1, 3.2, or 3.3, but as long as it starts with the 3, the firmware version, it is going to work with the Raceback. Next, let's talk about the binding methods. So for serial-based EOLR's receiver, you generally are going to have two options. You can either use the plug and unplug 3-time cheat method to bind it, or you can just use the more permanent binding phrase method, just go via Wi-Fi. So due to the time constraints, we're just going to be demoing using the cheat method, as that was going to be a lot faster. And if you're interested in the binding phrase method, below are going to be some links for some dedicated videos to show you how to set them up. Alright, so now let's begin the binding process. Alright, so to use the cheat method, you're going to bring your radio forward, you're going to power it on.
Welcome to HTX.
You're going to press the system button, and you're going to go into the ExpressLS script. You're going to scroll it down to the bind section, and you're just going to hold it right here. And also, like, you wanted to check what your ExpressLS firmware version is, this is going to be where you can check it. So it's on 3.3.1. Right, so let's just put the cursor on bind for now. And next, let's actually put the radio on back. And then let's take out our quad. You're going to take out your BT 2.0 battery. You will be able to plug and unplug 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and plug it in all the way on the 4th. And what we will be doing right now is we're just going to hitting the bind button, because that thing is going to put the receiver into binding mode. So you can see that right now the light is changing to solid, which is an indication that it has been bounded. All right, so this is a very good thing. Next, let's actually just move to our computer so we can finish up setting up everything in Betaflight. All right, so the next step, we're going to move to our PC, and you want to make sure you bring this little like adapter with you. So this is going to be where you're going to plug this in. So just make sure you plug this in first and then plug in the USB-C cable, because that's going to ensure that you won't accidentally short the board, because that's the last thing you wanted to do. All right, so once this is in here, you will be able to plug in the USB-C cable. Just make sure you don't accidentally break anything just by, just put it in like that. So next step, we're actually going to be launching Betaflight, and if this is the first time you're launching anything that is A30 you wanted to install, obviously, in the driver. So the driver link is going to be down below in case you need that. Once you have Betaflight open, you can now click connect. All right, so once we are in Betaflight, there's not a lot of stuff you have to do since this is a bind and flight quad. All you have to do is go to the receiver tab just to make sure that we're actually getting all the throttle whatsoever value like set up. And yep, you can see that everything is just like that. So the next tab we wanted to go into, it's going to be the modes tab. So at this place, we wanted to make sure that our ARM is ARM, modes is modes. So ARM, generally it's going to be aux1, which is going to be this one in this case. So you can see that the yellow thing, it's going into the yellow bar, which is going to be right. Next, it's going to be our modes. So angle, it's going to be at the bottom. So right now it's in angle mode. If we flip it in the middle, it goes to horizon. If it goes on the top, it goes to like acro. All right, so next down, aux3 should be this one. So this one is going to be a flip over crash, and once you're done, basically this is most of the stuff that you needed to know. Next, let's actually go to the video transmitter tab. So video transmitter tab, this is where you actually adjust like what channel of video transmitter you want. So generally I like to go with raceband and like to go with channel 1, and you will be able to adjust with like 25 watts or up to 100 watts or the max 400 watts. So we're just going to put it on 25 since like it's just less possible to overheat, and you're just going to hit save. All right, so basically once you're done with this one, this quad has been set up and we will be able to go to the field and we can test flight this thing. All right, let's get going. So the footage you're seeing right now is recorded from my Skyzone 040 Pro DVR. You can see that the camera, this seems to be slightly better compared to the previous gen. And right away, you're just going to feel that this drone is being super agile and it's like really fast. Like it's making the footage looks like it has been speed up, but in fact, it's just how fast it is. Besides the speed, due to the lightweight and the high KV motors, you can also expect very good freestyle performance. And I can confidently say that the Raceback, it kind of does fly like something that is a little bit bigger, kind of like a 3-inch, 3-inch freestyle, this is a 1S, but it kind of feels like you're flying something that is much bigger. But do be aware, this is going to be a glass cannon, as all the armors are now stripped to the minimum to maintain the weight, and it just may not hold a lot of damage. So this is something that you have to pay attention to. You probably don't want to crash this a lot. As for the tuning wise, I really like the default tune, as it does feel really smooth and it just like flying on a rail. And I think this is something that you should be expecting when you are purchasing a newbie drone quad, because what they are marketing is that their quads are going to be tuned to a point that it flies really, really nice. So if you are not tuning savvy and just want something that is going to be flying directly good out of the box, then newbie drone is probably going to be your good options. So Raceback, I really like the tune. Next, let's actually talk about who this drone is for. So I would say, although it flies really good, it handles really good, it does offer good performance and a kind of like a good price point. Consider the Tariff. Yeah, I would say this is still not going to be a really good beginner drone, because it is just expected not going to be good to take a lot of damage, and it is not going to be easy to repair, because most of the stuff, if you break something, you have to solder, and it's not like regular solder, it's like tiny, super tiny solder. So probably this is not going to be beginner friendly. So if you are a complete beginner, I would suggest you to probably check out the newbie drone Hummingbird version 4. You get most of the specs, but you just have a lot more armor and a lot more stuff easy to repair. Most of the stuff are going to be on a plug instead of like you have to solder physically. But if you are a seasoned pilot that is already good at flying and you know what you're doing, that this quad is going to bring a hell lot of fun to you. Alright, so that's going to be about it for this video. And if you're interested in the Raceback, links are going to be down below, and I don't know how much it's going to cost, and I assume that the quantity is going to be limited due to the tariff. So if you're going to see it, grab it real quick. Any questions or comments, please let me know. And if you like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, and happy flying. Bye for now.